And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to rock and roll.
The NBA postseason rolls on. Game 2, Milwaukee, Boston. After the Bucks took care of business in Game 1, Boston retaliated, destroying Milwaukee 109 to 86. Game 3 on Saturday in Milwaukee. A wild finish. Milwaukee was up double digits, but Boston came back in the fourth quarter, trailing 103 to 100. The Celtics' Marcus Smart was fouled, believing he was shooting 3 free throws, but the refs ruled he was shooting 2. Smart made the first one, intentionally missing the second one. A wild scramble occurred as Al Horford's tying field goal did not count as the fourth quarter clock expired. Milwaukee won 103 to 101. Game 4 on Monday night. Milwaukee led 76 to 65 in the third quarter, seemed to have full control of their destiny. But Al Horford, Jason Tatum would not let the Celtics go down without a fight as they came back, stunning the world champions, taking control of the rest of the game as Boston tied the Eastern Conference semifinals at 2, winning 116 to 108. Game 2, Memphis, Golden State, a game for the ages as Morant put the Grizzlies on his back, scoring 47 points to give Memphis a 106 to 101 victory. Game 3 on Saturday back in the Bay Area. Total domination by Golden State, destroying Memphis 142 to 112 in the fourth quarter. Morant went down with an injury. He did not play in Game 4. In Game 4, Memphis led the majority of the game, but Golden State, like true battle-tested champions do, came back, made all the right plays count, and they won Game 4 to go up 3 games to 1, winning 101 to 98. Also, Dallas, Phoenix, Philadelphia, and Miami, both of those series are also tied at 2 games apiece. The pressure in these playoffs rises. It's showtime. From the gridiron to the court, talking all that is sports. Members of the Busted Open Nation bring to you our Nation Sports Show. Here are your hosts, Ezra Vickery, Joey Thornton, Kevin Rory, and Stephen Wyand.
Ladies and gentlemen, coast to coast and around the world, we are live across the World Wide Web for another outstanding edition of our Nation Sports Show. Man, what a crazy day it has been. My goodness, man. Woo! I am actually your host once again tonight. I am Stephen Wyand, and joining me here in the next few minutes, he is not Justin Timberlake. Sorry, ladies. It's Joey Thornton, man. He's going to be joining me tonight. Ezra, unfortunately, can't make it tonight. He is still in Chicago with his sister, and good luck, with his sister and all that good stuff and, what's going on. And Kevin's not going to be with us tonight because he's got the flu, and hope you get to feeling better, brother. And, man, we're going to do it like we always do it. We're going to do it live because that's all we can do, man. Sometimes we're dealt with the hands we're dealt with, and we got to roll with the punches. But either way, before we get this show underway, we got to plug the social media platforms. You can follow us on Twitter at @ON_sports show, Facebook.com/Nations Sports Show. And also follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner, everywhere else on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, you know the drill. It's at the Nation's Corner. And what a wild week it was in the world of sports. Everything from the NBA, NFL news coming down the pipeline, UFC 274 happened this past weekend. And man, just a crazy weekend in sports. And we're going to start out with the NBA because, man, we had a lot of action from this past week in the NBA. And we're going to start out with the Bucks and the Celtics because, man, wow, just that series is heating up big time. And the world champion Bucks have all the pressure on their shoulders right now. The pressure is squarely on the Bucks, and Boston, like a pack of hyenas, is just coming after them. And man, Game 3 on Saturday in Milwaukee was a wild, crazy finish in that game. The Bucks were up by double digits in that third and fourth quarter, and Boston would not go away. And they came back in that game. Tatum, Horford, Smart, they all came back in that game and made it a game when it should have been a game, because just the way Giannis Antetokounmpo was playing in Game 3, I mean, he had 42 points, 18 rebounds, just outstanding Antetokounmpo was in Game 3. And in that fourth quarter, Boston made it an interesting game. I mean, just the shots they were making, they ended up trailing 103-100 in that fourth quarter. And, and just the way everything happened was just crazy because Marcus Smart was fouled with about 10 seconds left in that fourth quarter, thinking he was shooting 3 free throws, but the referees ruled that he was shooting only 2. And as a Celtics fan, I was very upset during that game. I was just so ramped up and caught up in the emotions in that game. And just crazy, wild that fourth quarter was. Smart made the first one, intentionally missed the second one. And just the way Boston executed getting that offensive rebound. Smart tapped it twice, could not get it to go in. Horford tapped it in, but there's a but here. But the fourth quarter clock already expired right after he tapped it in. His shot did not come in time. And that is how it sealed Boston's fate. And Jason Tatum was not good in Game 3. I mean, Boston fans, including myself, were very hard on him after that Game 3 lackluster performance. He had 10 points, only 10 points in that game. And just not a good performance by Tatum. But on Game 4, Monday, just when you thought Game 3 was crazy, Game 4 was even more crazy, and just the Bucks again were up by double digits in that third quarter. They were up 76, to 65 with about 4 or 5 minutes left in that third quarter. They ended up being up by 10 points towards the end of the third quarter. And in that fourth quarter, Al Horford, where in the hell did he find the fountain of youth? Because good God almighty, Horford was a man among boys in that fourth quarter. I mean, it honestly started, in my opinion, when Antetokounmpo dunked in Horford's face. And I don't know what he said to him, but Horford, I was reading on the internet last night after the game, and Horford basically gestured, okay, you want to do that? And Horford just took it upon himself to take over in that fourth quarter, scoring 16 of his 30 points in that fourth quarter. Just unbelievable was Horford. 11 of 14 from the field. Outstanding performance. And that three-pointer that he hit with about 5 minutes left in that fourth quarter, that right there put up Boston for good. And the biggest thing, and I was listening to this game last night on the Boston Celtics Radio Network on my Sirius XM account, and Sean Grande and Cedric Maxwell said it best last night during that game. Giannis, as great as he is, he's human. And, Antetokounmpo cannot do it all by himself because Middleton obviously has not been playing the last several weeks, after missing the rest of the Chicago series and so far the rest of this series with Boston. But clearly, Antetokounmpo needs help. Holiday needs to show up better. He only had 16 points in Game 4. He had 7 rebounds, 9 assists. And Brook Lopez also chipped in 17 points, but that's not good enough. You got to have your role players on the bench, the rest of your role players and the starting five that have been there for that since that championship year last year when they beat Phoenix in the 6-game series. And Antetokounmpo looked very tired in that second half. I mean, clenching his hands, huffing and puffing, breathing really heavily. At the free throw line, he would drop the ball and just be breathing heavily, they were saying on the broadcast. And I absolutely agree, just sitting there listening to the game. Giannis cannot do it all by himself. I mean, clearly, basketball is a team sport. It is not a one-man sport. It is a team sport. And he's a great player, don't get me wrong. But if they are going to win this series, man, it's going to be tough because Game 5 on tomorrow night on Wednesday at the TD Garden in Boston is going to be electric. That crowd is going to be on fire in that game. And man, the pressure is squarely on the champs now, and we'll see what happens in game 5 tomorrow night. And it's just fascinating. I mean, the moments that were created in that Game 4, what needed to go Boston's way, it did, because Tatum and Horford outscored Milwaukee by themselves. I believe they outscored them like 36 to like 26 or something like that. And just anyways, whatever, don't know the stats off the top of my head, but just incredible was Horford and Tatum in that fourth quarter. Tatum scored 12 points in that fourth quarter, scored 30 points in the game. And Tatum was very tentative in those first three quarters. And I think coach, and I think the rest of the players, especially Horford, said it to Tatum, hey man, let it all loose out there on the floor, because, you can't be tentative, when your season is on the line. And Tatum credited Horford after the game when they beat Milwaukee last night, saying that, man, he's been great to me and our teammates, for the past couple of years that I've been here since coming into the NBA. And Horford, man, he's a veteran. He's a 16-year veteran. Just an absolute baller is Horford. I mean, I don't know where he got this fountain of youth last night, man. I keep repeating myself, but I'm mesmerized by this performance last night. I mean, just incredible. Just incredible was Horford last night. I mean, outstanding. I mean, that's the best game he's played in his playoff career. I mean, just stunning, absolutely stunning. And we'll see what happens tomorrow night in Game 5. And now I want to switch gears to the Memphis Grizzlies and Golden State Warriors series. And man, you talk about a series that's had its ups and downs and peaks and valleys. Game 2, after Golden State stole Game 1 last Sunday, 117-116. In Game 2, John Morant was unbelievable. 47 points to lead the Grizzlies to a 106-101 victory in Game 2 to tie that series at 1, going back to the Bay Area for Games 3 and 4. And in Game 3 on Saturday, Memphis came out shooting the gym out, shooting the lights out, if you will. They were just shooting threes after threes in that first quarter. And man, just connecting on consecutive threes in that first quarter. And just crazy. And Steve Kerr and that coaching staff of Golden State starting to employ the zone defensive scheme. And that really, really, really stopped the Grizzlies' offensive, dominance in that first half. And Golden State started to get back into the game. And Golden State in that second quarter started to take control. They were up by double digits later part in the second quarter. They were up by 12, 13 points. And then Morant brings them back late stages into the second quarter. And they were down by 10. And at the buzzer, mid-court, Morant hits a miraculous shot. Half court. Boom. Nothing but net. And it was a game right then. But the floodgates were beginning to open for Golden State on Memphis. I mean, my freaking goodness. And Joey's fixing to join us here in a few minutes. And, real quick before he comes in here, I want to talk about this Game 3 in that second half. Man, Golden State in that third and fourth quarter took control, grabbed the bull by the friggin' horns, and absolutely took Memphis to school in that second half. Man, in the game, Golden State just killed them. 142-112 was the final. But unfortunately for Memphis, Morant left the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter in the game with a knee injury. And Memphis fans were complaining, oh, Jordan Poole, grabbed the knee and caused it to buckle. No, Morant made a move and his knee buckled in. It just so happened that Poole was going for the ball. That's called defense, folks. Give me a freaking break. It's kind of ironic in a way and coincidental, whatever term you want to use in this situation, that in game 2, Dylan Brooks, and there he is. What's up, Joey? Joey is now joining us. What's up, brother?
What is going on? I am so sorry I am late, but I have some stuff to take care of. But I'm here
brother,
now.
all good. I was just getting us started tonight, man, and just talking about the Milwaukee and Boston series and a little bit of Golden State of Memphis, and I'll start back over. Hey, rewind, folks, back to the beginning. Sorry, go back to Milwaukee and Boston. DJ, play that track back. Anyways, man, we're just talking. I was just talking about these last 2 games, man, because. Man, what a crazy game 3 and game 4 it was in Milwaukee. First of all, game 2, I totally forgot to cover that game because in game 2, Boston absolutely destroyed Milwaukee in game 2 in their building to get revenge 109-86 to tie the series at 1. But then the real crazy stuff happens in game 3 and game 4. And I want to get your thoughts on this in game 3 first. I mean, clearly in game 3, Milwaukee was the better team. Boston was left for dead in that third and fourth quarter, but Boston came storming back in that fourth quarter to make it a game, and they were trailing 103-100. And I was honestly pissed off about what happened in that fourth quarter because I believed that Marcus Smart was fouled shooting 3 free throws. That right there, honestly, was one of the reasons why Milwaukee won the game. And also, too, I used a Dave term. Oh, God. Also, too. Oh, thanks, LaGreca. Anyways, also, too. Oh, God. Anyways, so Holiday knocks over, I believe it was Tatum. Was it Brown or Tatum in the last basket that Milwaukee scored? I think it was Brown.
It was Brown, yeah.
Yeah, he knocked over Brown, and I'm like, that's an offensive foul. Hello. They should have called that to swallow the whistle. Of course they did. They have been in these playoffs. And so that right there helped out Milwaukee. And it just crazy. And then get back to the free throws. So Marcus Smart was obviously told that he was shooting 2. The crowd shockingly did not know this. He shot the first one, made it. And then he intentionally misses the second one. And that wild scramble occurred, and multiple taps by Smart were unsuccessful. Horford tapped it in, but it was ruled too late because the fourth quarter clock expired, and Milwaukee held on. Now, I want to get your thoughts, Joey, on game 3 before we go to game 4. And what were your thoughts watching that crazy game 3 on Saturday?
Well, first off, what is one thing that we've talked about that has screwed every single game, not just regular season and not playoff, but just any game in particular? The referees not making the calls right. And
right.
That is exactly what we saw in game 3 because, Drew Holiday lucked out big time because
sure did.
Because if that were to happen in any other game, he would have been called for an offensive charge all game long, day long. So he lucked out with that one. And I hate that Boston came up short, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, Boston kept it close in the first and second quarter because I was following the game on the ESPN app. And then about 15 minutes later, I looked at ESPN again and saw the Milwaukee was up by 11. I was like, good grief, what happened? Sure enough, Milwaukee went on that hot scoring run and just left Boston out the dust.
And Antetokounmpo was excellent in that game 3, had 42 points, 18 boards. I mean, just played so hard out there for Milwaukee. And the defending champs obviously go up 2-1. Game 4. And this was the most fascinating game, in my opinion, because the magnitude, the hill that Boston had to climb in that second half once again. Milwaukee was up 76-65 with about 4 to 5 minutes left in that third quarter. Finished up in the third quarter leading by at least 10 points. But in that fourth quarter, Al Horford, where in the hell did Al get that fountain of youth from, bro? Because he turned back the clock, Florida Gator style, with Joakim Noah back in those back-to-back and the belly-to-belly years of those two-time NCAA championship years with the Florida Gators. And just Horford played an unbelievable clinic of a game, scoring 16 of his 30 points in that fourth quarter, including a monster jam over the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo. And that right there, my friends, was sweet revenge on a silver freaking platter. Because Antetokounmpo, as you remember in that game, Joey, he got in Horford's face and made a gesture. And that right there was fuel to the fire for Horford. And that right there sparked the flame that united the Boston Celtics' incredible fourth quarter surge in game 4. Horford was unbelievable. 11 of 14 from the field. Just outstanding performance by Horford. I mean, just incredible. And Tatum, he wasn't great in game 3. Only had 10 points in that game. But in game 4, he rebounded. Now, it took him a bit to get going. Because in that first half, as you know, dude, he was very tentative. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then in that fourth quarter, I think Horford, the coaches, and the rest of the team said, hey, Tatum, dude, it's go time. Our season is on the line. If we don't win this, we're going down 3-1 back to our home court in Boston. And Tatum, man, he shook off the rust and shook off the nerves and shook off the tentativeness. Because as you know, as a sports fan, you know, a music sports fan, and obviously Kevin, Ezra, Randy, and everybody out there in sports land, you know, we all know that you cannot be tentative when you are playing sports. You got to go for it. Go for the jugular. Because if you don't, more than likely you're going to miss the shot in basketball, the pitch in baseball, the throw in football, you name it. You know, I can name any analogy and, you know, all that stuff, you know, and Tatum in that fourth quarter for Boston was unbelievable. Had 12 of his 30 points in that fourth quarter, including a monster 3. Just incredible shot by Tatum. And just, man, that fourth quarter surge by Boston, shocking Milwaukee. And, man, and I was listening to that game last night, Joey, on the Celtics radio network on my SiriusXM account. And Grandy and Max said it best in that game. As great as Antetokounmpo is, Giannis is human. He is only one man of 15 on that basketball team. And obviously, Giannis and Milwaukee miss Chris Middleton right now. They need Middleton.
You better believe they need Middleton, because Middleton, what he doesn't do on the offensive end, he definitely makes up for on the defensive end, because Middleton is, I mean, to put it in blatant terms, Chris Middleton of the East is just like Draymond Green is in the West. And I know we're going to get to the Warriors eventually, but Chris Middleton is just like Draymond Green, because Draymond Green is a shutdown defensive specialist, and that's exactly what Chris Middleton is. So, yeah, everybody, I mean, Steven, you hit the nail right on the coffin. Giannis is only one out of the 15 members of that pro basketball team. And the other guys were like, okay, we're out playing Boston right now. We're up by 9 at the end of the third quarter. We're about to go up 3-1 to finish the series off in Boston. Wrong. That's when Boston turned the heat up. And earlier in the game, not only whenever Giannis got in Horford's face and did a gesture, but he also dunked on him twice early in the game. And Horford was like, you know what? I ain't gonna take that sitting down. I ain't gonna take that standing up. I ain't gonna take that nowhere. I'm gonna show him what I'm truly made of. And that's exactly what he did. Not only did he get 16 of his 30 points in the fourth quarter, like you said, Steven, but Harford did not miss a single shot in the fourth quarter. He went a perfect 6 for 6, including knocking a couple threes down from
Yup, he did.
25 feet out. I'm telling you, Harper was on the ball. And
Literally.
the way that Tatum took over in the fourth quarter as well. I mean, Boston outscored Milwaukee 45-28 in that fourth quarter. Who puts up 45 points in the fourth quarter?
And
I'll
Tatum
tell
and
you who.
Horford alone outscored Milwaukee themselves.
Exactly.
Also you're looking at the same stats I am. I mean, heading into that fourth quarter, Boston was only 10 of 32 shooting threes, 40%. And in that fourth quarter, they caught fire from the 3-point line.
They caught fire from that 3-point line, and it showed.
Milwaukee was only 11 of 23 from the field in the fourth quarter. That is not good.
I mean, Milwaukee just got too cocky in that fourth quarter, and it killed them. So now the series is tied up at 2 with two of the final 3 games in Boston. So you better believe that, Milwaukee took game 1 on Boston's home court. And Boston got their revenge whenever they took game 4, of course, on Milwaukee's home court. But knowing how good of a team Boston is, they ain't gonna lose on their home court one more time. So Milwaukee better hope they're able to take game 6 at their home court, because if Boston catches fire in game 5, they're definitely gonna take a 3-2 lead. And if Milwaukee is still faltering in game 6, Boston could come from behind and smoke them and send the former NBA champions packing.
Absolutely. And also, Boston only missed 3 of its 19 field goals in that fourth quarter. That is stunning. Stunning.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're playing NBA 2K.
I know.
And, just crazy, crazy, crazy. And we'll have to see what happens in game 5. And man, how funny how the basketball gods are laughing in Milwaukee's faces, because Milwaukee had an opportunity to be the number 2 seed with home court advantage. That's not happening, because 2 out of 3 Boston games could possibly happen in the TD Garden in the Eastern Conference semifinals. So we shall see what happens tomorrow in game 5. And I want to move to the Memphis and Golden State series. Man.
You might as well just take Memphis's chances and put it on the silver platter now. With John Morant out for more than likely the rest of the playoffs, the Warriors are down 3-1. The Grizzlies are down 3-1. So that means the Grizzlies have to win 3 games in a row. And do you think and yes, I know the Grizzlies went 20-5 without John Morant in the regular season.
This is the playoffs.
This is the playoffs. And in the playoffs is when the intensity gets more serious than ever. And plus, you're playing a team like the Warriors, who have sharpshooters in Klay Thompson, Stephen Curry, Jordan Poole, an absolute defensive specialist in Draymond Green. So Memphis, I hope you enjoy your number 2 seed in the playoffs, because you're about to go home. Because there is no way that you were going to win 3 games in a row against this mighty Warriors team. Forget it. The series is done. And plus, this is the only series where it's not 2-2. Every other series right now is tied 2-2, except for this one. So Warriors, just get the job done in game 5. Send the Grizzlies home packing, and we'll see you guys in the Western Conference Finals against either Phoenix or Dallas.
Absolutely. And honestly, Joey, the inevitable is fixing to happen. The Warriors are fixing to take out the Grizzlies in this series. But honestly, where Memphis lost this series was game 1 last Sunday. When you should have won a game, you didn't do it. Morant was excellent in game 1 last Sunday with 34 points. And obviously Green did not play because he was ejected. Golden State stole that game 117 to 116. Game 2, Memphis in game 2 was outstanding. Led wire to wire, did not trail for the majority of that, or did not trail for the most part, but Golden State did take the lead. Memphis wrestled the lead back from Golden State. Morant was excellent in that game with 47 points. Memphis took game 2 to tie the series at 106 to 101. Games 3 and 4, obviously back in San Francisco. Game 3 was an interesting game because Memphis in that first half was shooting the lights out from the 3-point line. They had like 6, 7, 8 3. I believe it was like 8 3-pointers in that first quarter. And then Steve Kerr and the Warriors defense changed their defensive scheme to a zone defensive coverage that absolutely knocked the Grizzlies out of their shooting rhythm. Morant hit 2 threes in that first quarter, was absolutely dynamite and just killing it. Brooks was suspended for his flagrant 2 foul against Gary Payton II in game 2. Payton II is obviously out for the foreseeable future with the elbow injury. And Brooks was suspended for game 3, did not play. So Jackson Jr., he was shooting good. Jones was shooting pretty well. Morant was doing good in that first half. Golden State in that second quarter started to take charge. Curry, Thompson, they got hot in that second quarter. We're up by 12, 13 points. Morant got him to within 7, including a miraculous 45-footer, half court, nothing but net 3-pointer that put Memphis behind 7 and still within reach. But in that third quarter, as we would say in wrestling, instead of vintage Undertaker, vintage Golden State. Because Golden State took full control of the game. In the fourth quarter, it was no contest. They ended up winning that game 142 to 112. Here's the caveat for Memphis. John Morant, as we have talked about on our chat on Facebook, and obviously the news has talked about, Morant went out in that fourth quarter with 5 minutes left in the game with a knee injury. Here's my question to you, Joey. Why did Taylor Jenkins leave Morant in the game when the game was over?
Because apparently
that's it.
Because I mean, it's quite simple. Taylor Jenkins does not know how to coach. Yeah, Memphis won. I mean, they won a lot of games this year. They wound up being the number 2 seed in the West with all that youth. But, and here's the key word, but when it comes to pressurized game time situations, Taylor Jenkins does not know how to coach his way out of a wet paper sack. And the game was pretty much out of reach. After the Warriors took over, the Grizzlies never led the rest of the game the Grizzlies led basically the whole game. They led basically the whole game. But it all goes back to what I was saying a couple of weeks ago. If you want to win an NBA game, or if you want to win any sort of regular season game, you got to play the full game. Because if you don't, it's going to come back to bite you in the butt. I mean, the Warriors led for only 14.7 seconds in that game, in game 4. But yet, that was all of the Warriors needed to get that W. And John Morant, I mean, I understand that dude is an elite player. I mean, he's one of the best young guns in the history of the NBA right now, other than the likes of a Jordan Poole and a Devin Booker and a Luka Doncic and other players like that. Right. But John Morant, I mean, he can't do it by himself. Desmond Bane was nowhere to be found. All the other Grizzly players, Jaren Jackson and all those other players, they were nowhere to be found. So John Morant basically had to do it by himself. And he was like, Coach, I know my knee is sore, but I can go out there. And he was like, well, I believe in you. You're the star player on this team, so go on out there and do it. Wrong. I mean, I'm telling you one thing. This has been a very aggressive series between the Warriors and the Grizzlies. Both referees and both teams have gone back and forth when it comes to playing dirty. Now, the Grizzlies obviously have done more dirty play than the Warriors have, but it just goes to show that the Grizzlies don't care about winning. At least right now, they don't. They just want to focus on pretty much getting all the Warriors players out while they can so they can pretty much control the game all to themselves. But that's never going to happen. The Warriors are too good. I mean, they have the smartest, and yes, I said the smartest head coach in the NBA right now in Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr has so many years of NBA experience under his belt, so he
Right.
knows what's going on. He knows what to expect. And going into the season, everybody's like, who's Taylor Jenkins? Who is this guy? We don't know who this guy is. And yeah, he's starting to make a name for himself now, but it just goes to show when you go up against the Warriors, who are a legitimate threat to go far into the playoffs year after year after year after year, I mean, there's not really much I can say. The Warriors are just the best team in the Western Conference right now. And yes, I'm saying they are the best team in the Western
I agree.
Conference right now.
And
So,
upon reading the stats here, Memphis was obviously up 69 to 62 in that fourth quarter. And Golden State just absolutely took control. Bain hit a three-pointer to put him up 69 to 62 at the end of the third quarter. The Grizzlies were up 69 to 62 going into the fourth. And Memphis seemed to be, obviously, they thought, oh, we're going to get out of here, out of San Fran with a split. But you had one full quarter left to play, and the stats don't lie. Because Golden State shot 10 of 17 in that fourth quarter, including 4 of 8 from downtown, and just outplayed Memphis in that fourth quarter. And I tell you, Joey, the one thing that still leaves me scratching my head in that fourth quarter is some of the shot selections that Brooks, especially Jackson Jr., what in God's name are you doing playing hero ball? This is not hero ball. This is a team game, damn it. This is not, look at me. Oh, look what I can do. Come on. This is a team game. Why do you think Golden State is where they are right now? They weren't even panicking. You know what? Charles Barkley said it best in that post game report of that game. Golden State was just going through the motions, just walking through the park. Oh, that's a Buffy reference for all you people that don't know that. Anyways, I know some people get that. But anyways, so Golden State was just going through the motions, and in the fourth quarter, they said, all right, it's go time, let's go. And Curry was not predominantly good in that game, as far as percentage wise. 10 of 25 from the field, only 4 of 14 from the 3-point line. But when it matters the most, Curry was clutch in that fourth quarter. Man, just outstanding. He finished the game with 32 points. He shot 2 free throws to put him up 94 to 93, including hitting 6 more free throws in 25 seconds. Just crazy. 8 of 9 for the free throw line, and played an outstanding game. And
that's what's called playing smart ball, because the Warriors knew they needed to win that game. And with it being a close game like it was, the Grizzlies knew they were going to have to foul. So the Warriors were like, you know what? Let's do everything we can to put the ball in the hands of our best free throw shooter and let him go down and knock the free throws to get us the win. And that's exactly what they did. So the Warriors absolutely played smart with doing everything they could to give Steph Curry the ball in a close game situation like that, because Curry from the free throw line is pretty much automatic. And last night was just another prime example of how automatic Steph Curry is from the free throw line, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the absolute dominant performance in that fourth quarter by Golden State, going back to Memphis for Game 5. And obviously, Kevin wrote in our chat today that Morant, like we just talked about a few minutes ago, that Morant is obviously going to more than likely be out for the rest of the postseason. That does not spell good news for the Grizzlies because, Memphis has had an incredible run this year, and they have been outplayed by Golden State because, get this, Steve Kerr did not coach in Game 4 because he's out with COVID in that game. But Mike Brown, after getting the Sacramento Kings gig, had to coach Golden State in Game 4. And no surprise, Brown leads Golden State to another victory. He is now 12-0 with the Dubs.
Well, see, now that John Morant is out for the rest of the playoffs, guess what that means for Memphis?
Yep.
Yeah, but seriously, guess what that means for Memphis or for a certain player of that matter? More hero ball for Mr. Jared Jackson Jr. Woohoo!
What was he thinking with that three that he shot in that fourth quarter? Because there was 3 Golden State players around him, and he shot it. Green said blocked, and just. You might as well be like Kevin does in Madden and line up the offense or the defensive lineman in the backfield and let it be congested in that fourth, in the backfield. In the backfield, because that's when the defensive lineman or the linebacker goes doink. and just oh my goodness. Green was like, I dare you shoot. He's like, okay, blocked.
Or better yet, when the linebacker hops over,
Yep.
It's like when the linebacker hops over an offensive line, sacks the quarterback, doink.
Oh my goodness. And the next series that I want to move on to is Philadelphia, Miami. What a series turnaround this has been, because in the first 2 games, Miami did outplay Philadelphia in the first 2 games. In Game 3, Philadelphia obviously pulled away. And hey, what do you know? James Harden actually got Philadelphia a win without Embiid. Well, Embiid still played, but it was hardly a factor. But still, Harden got them the victory.
Oh, and let's not to mention something else also happened in Game 4 to James Harden. He was finally able to score 25 points in the game again.
Oh my goodness. Philadelphia, I don't know how, they are so unpredictable. Embiid is back. Yeah, that's great. But I still cannot take Philadelphia serious. They tied. No, they tied the series. Miami to me is a better team, and I think Miami is going to hold home court, in this series. But I want to get your thoughts on this series. So, obviously, we thought it was going to be obviously a clean sweep because the way Miami was just outplaying the Sixers. But in games 3 and 4, what do you think was the biggest turnaround for Philadelphia against Miami? Did they figure out the defensive schemes? What do you think?
What I think was the reason why Philadelphia was able to turn this series around is because Joel Embiid is back on the court. And yeah, we know that Embiid is we all thought that Embiid was going to win the MVP this year, but we know what happened there, which that's probably going to come a little bit later on. But James Harden, he was finally able to find his stroke. Game 3, he started off kind of small a little bit, but he somewhat rebounded. He scored less than 25 points, but with Embiid back on the court, Harden was able to have that 1-2 punch that got the Sixers to this number 3. fourth seed in the Eastern Division. And I mean, the Sixers were just able to turn it around. I think Miami has let off a little bit on the defensive side of things, but Miami, they're a team that doesn't like to stay down for long. And now that Game 5 is going back to their home court, you better believe Miami's gonna come into the game full swing with Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. You know those guys are gonna want to do everything they can to make sure they have a 3-2 lead once they go back to Philly. And like you said, Steven, from my point of view, yeah, the Sixers may have Maxey and Harden and Embiid on the court, all on the court again. But I still can't take Philadelphia seriously because Philly they have a bunch of holes that need to be filled. And until they can get those holes filled, yeah, they were able to squeak out of their opening round series in which they took I think it was Toronto to the limit. Yeah, it was Toronto. Yeah, they were able to take Toronto to the limit and get past them, but Miami, we all said they were going to be the weakest number 1 seed in the last few years that has come into the playoffs.
Right, because Miami might be the top seed, but remember a couple of years ago in the Mickey Mouse bubble, they were the 5th seed when they went to the NBA Finals, and it was a good run. But they have proven that they can be a top team with, the players that they got in Jimmy Butler, and Hero,
especially in this playoffs because Miami has pretty much shown everybody that they can actually hang around. We all thought that Miami was gonna falter at some point, but they had subpar performances in games 3 and 4 against Philly, but I guess you have to show a little bit of mercy for Philly, at least a little bit. But now that the series is tied 2-2, Miami is like, you know what? We've slacked off a little bit on defense. We need to get the ball rolling, and we need to do whatever we can to let the Sixers get these easy baskets, because that's one thing that helped Philly. They were able to get a lot of easy baskets. But now Miami needs to tighten up on defense a little bit, and so that way Miami will be able to retake the lead and more than likely close out the series in 6. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
It is. And upon looking at some of the stats here, in Game 3, when Philadelphia finally got back into the series, Miami in that game, in their 116-108 loss against Philadelphia, Miami only shot 7 of 30 from the 3-point line in Game 3. In Game 4, when Philadelphia beat them, Miami shot 7 of 35. And they have got to do better from the 3-point line if they are going to win Game 5. Because shooting 7 of 20, 7 of 35, 7 of 40, 10 of 40, you name it. I could go all across the board as far as the numbers. But, Game 5 is a critical game for Miami. Because if they go down 3-2 back to Philadelphia, honestly, it's over. Because I do not see Miami winning in Philadelphia if they are down 3-2. And obviously, Philadelphia beat them in that game, 116, or excuse me, the Game 4 was 116-108. Anyways, but see, here's where things can turn around a little bit, because let's say Philly goes into Miami and takes Game 5 and goes up 3-2. Have we forgotten who the head coach for Philly is? Doc Rivers, the man who's lost more series clinching games than any other coach in NBA history. So Doc Rivers needs to be like, if we go into Miami and take this game, I can't let
all the bad luck that I've had before come get me again, because
Right.
if that happens, Miami could come back on us and beat us in 7.
Right, because obviously in game 3, I stand correct with the score. It was 99-79. That was a ugly game. I mean,
Oh, that was an ugly
game. I mean,
performance
it was
by
not
Miami.
a pretty game. Not a good game for neither team. And that is my biggest concern. Even though Philadelphia and Miami put up more points on the board in game 4, Philadelphia won 16-108 on Miami. My biggest concern for both of these teams going forward out of the next round, whoever makes it to the conference finals, they're going to have to put up points against either Boston or Milwaukee, because Miami is not going to win a game 85-80 against an offensive caliber team in either Boston or Miami.
Absolutely not.
And neither is Philadelphia.
Not.
Because look at these stats, Joey. In the first 3 games of the Philadelphia-Miami series, in isolation plays, Harden only scored 24 points on 38 possessions. But in game 4, he scored 15 on 11. That's better. But 24 points in 38 possessions in the first 3 games. That is not good enough. And that is the problem that Harden has always had ever since he left Oklahoma City and went to Houston, and then he went to Brooklyn, and now he's with, obviously, Philadelphia. He is an isolation, supposable quote-unquote king, as the writers think he is. Is Harden good? Yes, when he wants to show up. I do not trust James Harden going forward.
Oh, no. And the thing about Boston and Milwaukee is, both those teams like to put up offensive points, but Boston and Milwaukee also like to play tight defense.
Exactly.
So, I mean, whoever makes it out of that Boston-Milwaukee series, I'm going to go and say they're going to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. I'm telling you that right now. Miami, Philadelphia, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who comes out in this series, but Miami, Philly, I'm telling you right now, whoever comes out of y'all series, I better go ahead and pack your bags right now, because there is no way you're going to beat either Boston or Milwaukee. No chance.
Absolutely not. I mean, because even if Harden makes it to another conference finals, I don't trust him. I don't trust him, because he's the king of choking, in my opinion.
I'm guessing that beard is starting to wear off now.
Yeah, fear the beard. How about shave the beard? Come on.
There you go. Shave the beard. And maybe then you'll be an elite ball player again. Maybe.
Yep. And before we continue, folks, I want to again plug our social media platforms. You can follow us on Twitter at @ON_sports show. Also, Facebook.com/Nation Sports Show. Also, follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner. Everywhere else on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, it is at The Nation's Corner. And getting to one of the most shockingly competitive series in the NBA postseason, it is the Dallas Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns. Man. Just when you thought that Phoenix was going to run away with this series because Chris Paul was out playing Dallas, and so was Devin Booker in those first 2 games. In game 3, Dallas took control, got back into the series with a 103-94 victory. I mean, Luka Doncic, that man is on fire. Like a flamethrower. You can't extinguish him. I mean, just my goodness. I mean, Luka is playing outstanding ever since he came back. And in the first 2 games, he obviously averaged 40 points in the first 2 games. In the first quarter of game 3, he had 5 assists. Let's see. And Jalen Brunson had 10 points on 4 of 7 shooting in that first quarter. And he finished with a game high 28 points. And, just Dallas absolutely outplayed Phoenix in game 3. And I want to get your thoughts on game 3 because that was a must-win situation for Dallas. What are your thoughts on game 3?
Game 3, it's pretty much simple. Phoenix fell apart. Dallas capitalized on the mistakes that Phoenix was making. Luka Doncic was able to revolve back to his old form, and Dallas was able to take game 3. Same thing for game 4. Now, here's Phoenix and Dallas is now tied at 2. But now, here is my biggest concern for a certain Phoenix Suns team. Here's my biggest concern right here, right now. Whenever they struggled, and yes, I'm saying struggled against the Pelicans, mainly because Devin Booker was out for those 2 to 3 games, Phoenix was eventually able to pull away in 6 games from the Pelicans. As of this point right now, there's no telling if Phoenix will be able to survive against Dallas. I mean, Dallas might come out of nowhere and just take this series for themselves. But let's just say that Phoenix does find a way to get past Dallas in 6 or 7 games and goes on to face more than likely the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. I'm telling you right now, the one thing that I am concerned about Phoenix is their game intensity level. Because, and hear me out, if Phoenix goes on to play Golden State in the Western Conference Finals, Phoenix cannot, and I repeat, cannot take Golden State the way they've been able to take New Orleans and Dallas and start off slow and get hot. Because with how good this Warriors team is right now, if Phoenix even thinks about starting off slow, it's going to kill them instantly. Because the Warriors have such an intensity, they have such a focus around them that makes them so deadly than what they already are. So if Phoenix goes on to face Golden State in the Western Conference Finals, Phoenix had better get their intensity level back up to where it needs to be. Because this is the same Phoenix team that went 64-18. Not only the best record in the Western Conference, but the best record in all of the NBA. And yet, you're telling me that they're struggling or they struggle with the Pelicans? And now you're telling me that they're struggling with Dallas? What am I watching here? What am I watching here? Phoenix does not need to be struggling like this in the playoffs. It's like, because they're saying that they're the number 1 team in the Western Conference, it's like, oh, we ain't got to go out and play serious. We just got to go out and play just enough to where we can, we'll just play enough to where we can get by. No. You better not have that mindset against Golden State, because if you do, you're going to find yourselves down 3-0 to Golden State if you don't look out. So Phoenix needs to get their intensity level up, and if they can't, then they might as well go and start packing their bags right now, because Dallas could very well come back and get them. And if Phoenix were to beat Dallas in either 6 games or 7, I mean, I don't know what to say anymore. Phoenix needs game intensity help.
They really do. I mean, look at some of these stats right here. I mean, Brunson in the first 3 quarters of the first 2 games of the series only scored 22 points through the first 3 quarters. But in game 3, he scored 24 points. 24. In the first couple of games, he was 9 of 28. That is not good. But Brunson, give him credit. He rebounded. Absolutely rebounded. scored 28 points in that game. Luka Doncic, man, just absolutely killed it in that game. 11 to 25 from the field and played a great game. He had 26 points. And get this stat, too. This is the first time that Dallas has had two or more players that has had at least two players have at least 26 points in a game. That was the last time that happened was when Monte Ellis and the great Dirk Nowitzki both had 26 plus points together against the Rockets in 2015.
Oh yeah.
And man, just they absolutely killed it. You know, Doncic and Brunson did in game 3. And Jason Kidd, man, you know, the biggest thing that helped out with him in game 3, especially in games 3 and game 4, Luka started to play down low in the paint, putting the absolute pressure on the Phoenix's defense. And just, you know, the thing with Phoenix is they got to do better in game 5, because in game 4 it did not go any better for them. Because look at these stats before I get your thoughts on game 4. So in the first two games, in game 3, Brunson and Doncic scored 44 points, and had a combined had 15 rebounds, 15 assists. In game 4, they combined for 54, 17 rebounds, 14 assists. That is absolutely outstanding by Dallas's backcourt, because their backcourt has outplayed Phoenix's backcourt. Now, Devin Booker was really good in game 4. He had 35 points, but Chris Paul did not show up in game 3 nor game 4, especially game 3, because game 3 was his birthday and it was spoiled by Dallas's greatness in that game. But in game 4, again, you know, Booker was outstanding in that game. Chris Paul was not. And the Dallas's offense in that game 4 came to play and had 23s in that game. They hit the same mark that they hit 23s. Ironically, May the 8th, 2011 was the game they had against the Los Angeles Lakers when they drained 23s, ending Phil Jackson's coaching career with the Lakers. And just Dallas's backcourt in these last two games has outplayed Phoenix. And going back to Phoenix in game 5 with the pressure squarely on the Suns, Paul has to play better. And he fouled out. And I know, and here's my problem with that game, with Sunday's game. That 6th foul was bullshit. And it was called, and they didn't go back. And obviously Monty Williams lost the challenge. And that was critical for the Suns, you know, because losing that challenge, you know, that really put them behind the 8 ball as far as being able to challenge calls and stuff. And but before I get to your thoughts on this game, there is one thing that really disturbed me with this game. And it's not the play of Phoenix or what happened in that game. It is the disgrace of these NBA fans in Dallas. The fact that you had the audacity to shout obscenities and talk trash, cursing at Chris Paul's wife and his mother on Mother's Day of all days, you disgraced idiots, to be doing this crap. It made no sense to sit there and do this stuff, because just because you pay your hard-earned freaking money, that does not give you the right to sit there, even though we live in the United States of America, to speak freedom of speech at these players in your seat. Because in my opinion, the NBA needs to step up and do something about this stuff before we have another Malice at the Palace too.
Well, I just got one thing to say about that. These Dallas Maverick fans have been taking notes. They've been taking notes. Let's see. Let me see. I'm trying to think. There's another team that likes to point fingers, shout obscenities, pretty much belittle every member of the opposing team. What's that team I'm thinking of? Oh yeah, the Dallas Cowboys. Those Cowboy fans do the exact same thing. And that is where that's where the Dallas Maverick fans are taking notes from. The Dallas Cowboy fan base has got to be, and I mean has got to be, the worst fan base in NFL history. Because Dallas is like, oh, we lost this game because of so and so not doing their job. We lost this game because our head coach is worth 2 big piles of poo. We lost this game because Dak Prescott didn't play his best game, or Zeke got hurt, or the referee screwed the game for us. Oh, shut up. Shut up. You lost the game fair and square. Why don't you just admit it for once?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, fans in Dallas, whether it be basketball, football, hockey, it don't matter what it is, fans in Dallas just don't know how to. No, I'm not even going there.
Look at these stats that I just came across. In the first 2 games of the Suns and Maverick series, Chris Paul racked up 47 points, 11 rebounds, only had 4 turnovers, and only committed 5 fouls. That is incredible. But however, as Tommy German would say, however, Chris Paul in games 3 and 4 had a combined 17 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, 9 turnovers, and 10 fouls. That is not going to win you games. Chris Paul has got to do better going back to game 5 at the Footprint Center in Phoenix. And just man. So
I'm guessing
go ahead.
I'm guessing the intensity we saw from Chris Paul in the series against the Pelicans has gone back down into the ocean, because we sure haven't seen it in this series.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh, Ezra!
Whoa! We got Ezra on the show. What is going on, man?
What's up, guys? I'm glad I could finally make it. Just got back from Chi-Town. Traffic was a bitch, but I finally made it to the show. What's going on, guys?
Well, my goodness, man. Like, I guess we got to me and Joey's been talking about, these NBA playoffs, and
yes.
I want to get, and man, but like, just like, man, like what a crazy weekend it was in the NBA playoffs. I mean, the Bucks and the Celtics tied up at 2 games apiece, and Memphis going down 3 games to 1 against Golden State. I mean, Ezra, I mean, clearly, in my opinion, Milwaukee has a lot of pressure on them going into game 5.
Absolutely. Milwaukee, despite them being such a dominant team early on, has shown that there are some weaknesses in their game. And unfortunately, it's showing later in the playoffs, which is not a good sign for them. Boston has been playing out of their mind amazingly lately, despite even early on in the playoffs, not having Marcus Smart for a couple of games. They still came out there and they've been killing it every freaking night. Milwaukee's got to find some way to bounce back. They're still, from what I know, without Middleton.
Yes.
And I know Chris is not that much. I mean, he's not a big playmaker, but he's still an integral part of the team. So, in my opinion, I think that Boston really needs to figure out. What they need to do is they need to really just try to shut down Boston's main shooters, and it's going to be hard because they've been playing, like I said, at such an elite level. They got to keep body on body, and they got to try. That's another thing. That's another thing with some of the other playoff matchups, including Golden State. There was a lot of fouls in these last couple of games, a ton of fouls.
Oh, yeah.
I know that's something that if Kevin was here, he would have something to say about. A lot of offensive fouls on their side and a lot of offensive fouls. To me, it is getting chippy on that end too, on Golden State. They need to settle down. We'll talk about, I don't know if you guys have talked about that yet. Have you talked about Golden State, Memphis?
Yes, but we want to get your analysis too on this series, because I mean, clearly game 2, I mean, Golden State and Memphis split the first two games, and Morant had an excellent game in game 2 with 47 points, tying the series with that 106-101 win. But game 3, that was the game that turned everything around in this series, because Memphis's offense in that first 12 minutes of that game or so was shooting dynamite from the three-point line with over 8 threes in that first quarter. But Steve Kerr's defense for Golden State, was just suffocating with that zone defense the rest of the way and held them in check. And obviously in that fourth quarter, Morant had went out with the knee injury, ended up finishing the game with 34 points, had a great game, but not a great result because Morant was out for game 4. And now possibly, depending on if Memphis can go further, it's going to take a miracle, obviously. He's out, for the rest of the playoffs. But I want to get your thoughts on games 3 and 4, Ezra, on the way, just the way that Golden State has taken every punch from Memphis and has rolled with the dice, rolled with the punches, and has taken every blow and have returned the favor and took all advantages. Because game 4 as well, Memphis led the majority of the game and Golden State just took it away.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Golden State has been relatively unstoppable this playoff run. They've been absolutely on a tear. And it's everybody's been stepping up and being great playmakers. Jordan Poole has really showcased himself as one of the top stars on that team this entire playoff run. And of course, you can't the Splash Brothers being the Splash Brothers putting up their points, and Draymond Green proving he's once again one of the big difference makers. And that the thing is about Memphis, especially now that they are without John Morant, possibly for the remainder of the playoffs because of a bone bruise. It's gonna be like you said, it's gonna take a miracle. 3 and 4 were great competitive games. Memphis came in there with a game plan, but unfortunately, they did all they could, and Golden State just persevered. And it speaks to the perseverance of the team. It speaks to the coaching of Steve Kerr. It speaks to just the overall competitiveness and toughness of Golden State to be able to take that lead from Memphis and say, hey, we're going to get you back tenfold. And they sure as hell did. Now they're up 3-1 in the series with that pivotal game coming up. When is that? Tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, yes.
Yeah,
back in Memphis for game 5.
Yeah, pivotal game 5 for Memphis. If they don't win, they're gone. Simple as that.
Yep. There's nothing we can do about it. Yep.
So in my opinion, Memphis really needs to figure out who's going to be the big difference maker now that Morant's out. That's my big thing is who's going to take that spot and run with it and try to get them back into this. It's going to be a tough road ahead. Golden State is not going to let the foot off the throat. We know that. We know that in the playoffs past, that Golden State, when they get going, they're hard to stop. They're a runaway freight train that no brick wall can stop. And that's unfortunately the way it's going to be. If Memphis can't figure it out, they're done.
Yep, absolutely. And I also want to go back to you on this Celtics and Bucks series, and especially in the last couple of games. I mean, game 3 and game 4 had a similar theme to them because Milwaukee was up by double digits in games 3 and game 4. They led by at least 10 in that fourth quarter in game 3. Boston came storming back in that fourth quarter. They were down by 3. Marcus Smart was fouled thinking that he was shooting 3 free throws, but the referees ruled it that he was shooting 2. And shockingly, the crowd at the Fiserv Forum did not know that he was only shooting 2. And, when he made the first one, intentionally missed the second one, which was a kind of a nice trickery thing. Fortunately, it worked for Boston, but it didn't work because the Smart had the first couple of taps, didn't go in. Horford tapped it in, but the fourth quarter clock expired after he tapped it in, and Milwaukee held on. But game 4, this is the most pivotal game to me of this series because it was going to speak volumes to what was going to happen for the rest of this series. Milwaukee led 76-65 in that third quarter. And then the fourth quarter, Al Horford found this fountain of youth. I don't know where the hell he got it from, and turned back the clock and scored 16 of his 30 points, went 6 for 6 in that fourth quarter, 11 of 14 overall for that game, 30 points in that game, put Boston on his back and had a hell of a game. And then Jason Tatum in that fourth quarter erupted with 12 points. Now, in the first half, Tatum was very tentative with his shot selection. And in that third quarter, he was very tentative too. And he was missing wide open threes, missing wide open jump shots, missing layups. and he was very passive and tentative. And, and I think in the fourth quarter, I really think Horford and Boston said to him, hey, man, our season's on the line. You got to step up and leave it out all on the floor. And he did. And his confidence started to grow. He made 12 shots. He ended up finishing the game with 30 points. And I want to get your thoughts because clearly, and this is one thing, I was listening to the game yesterday on the Celtics and radio network on Sirius XM. And Sean Grandy and Cedric Maxwell were talking about how Giannis Antetokounmpo, as great as he is human because he has played outstanding these last couple of games for Milwaukee. Game 3 had 42 points, 18 boards. In game 4, Game 3 had 42, 18 boards. In game 4, he had 34 points. That's pretty good, but he's got to have help because Holiday only went 5 for 22 from the field, 16 points. And Brook Lopez had 17 points in that game. But Antetokounmpo looks very human. And I want to get your thoughts on Milwaukee because to me, they miss Chris Middleton badly. And Joey agrees with me on this. And I want to see, what are your thoughts on this for the rest of this series going forward? Because clearly the pressure is on the Bucks.
Yeah, the pressure is on the Bucks. And like you said, Giannis is human. Despite him known as the Greek freak, the Greek god, whatever you want to call him, he is human. The guy, yes. But the problem is as NBA fans, especially in today's era, are so conditioned to watching these 30, 40, 45-point performances that's what we expect of our stars. That's what we expect of a LeBron, a Steph Curry, a Kevin Durant, a Giannis, or even a Devin Booker. That's what we expect. And look, 30-some points, that's pretty damn good.
Yep.
Definitely. But when you're struggling and you're expected to hit that 40-point mark, first of all, that's a lot of a pressure on one person. And I've always said, whether it's in any sport, any team sport, not one person can win the whole game for you. That's the one thing, is that they got to be more sporadic and more equal with their point sharing. You can't just have two players score 40 points and expect to win the game, or expect them not to be the next game, be a little bit maybe shot. And yes, they're definitely missing Chris Middleton for sure. Chris Middleton helps layer out some of the point differentials between the players, and he's a great playmaker. He helps get Giannis open. He helps him get those threes, those jump shots, whatever Giannis needs to do. Middleton's a great guy inside, a great guy outside, and unfortunately, they're missing him. And people think, oh, Chris Middleton, he's been okay. The guy's still a star. The guy's still one of the top players that Milwaukee has. And without him, I feel like that, especially if they go deep in the playoffs, so somehow Boston pulls this out and wins this, it's going to be a tough time for Giannis to really keep up this type of momentum and without him breaking down physically or even mentally, because all that stress of okay, I got to be the guy that scores 43 points and has 18 boards. I can't, if I was a player like that, that would tire me. I mean, you got to have mental toughness along with physical toughness, but it would tire me out after a while. It would, because I'm the one who's got to be dependent on to make that points when everybody else should be stepping up their game.
Absolutely. I mean, just like the way Milwaukee has played. I mean, Giannis has had a great series, but I think the gas is starting to run a little low, for Antetokounmpo. And it's going to be interesting going back to game 5, tomorrow night in Boston. I want to get your thoughts also on this Dallas and Phoenix series. I mean, clearly we thought Phoenix was the runaway favorites in this series in the first 2 games. Because Chris Paul was outstanding in the first couple of games, had 47 points combined. He had 11 rebounds, only 4 turnovers, and only 5 fouls. But in the last 2 games, Paul has only had 12 points, 14 assists, 11 points, 12 assists. I believe it's 11 points, 12 assists, 9 turnovers, and 10 fouls. Just not a good day at the office for Paul these last couple of games. And just the way Dallas has outplayed Phoenix in the last couple of games, especially with Coach Jason Kidd, putting Luka Doncic in the paint, putting the pressure on the Suns defense, creating that pressure, driving to the basket, kicking it out to his shooters. And, Luka has played outstanding in these last couple of games, for Dallas to get him tied up at 2. And especially in game 4, because Dallas hit 23s in that game for the second time this year. In the first series, they hit 22 threes and breaking that record. And obviously 20 was their record in 2011 when they beat the Lakers in 4. And obviously Devin Booker has played outstanding in this series to the first 4 games. Chris Paul has not shown up the last couple of games. And if I'm Phoenix, Chris Paul has to play better. And Joey agrees with me on this. And what are your thoughts on the Suns in this Dallas series? Because clearly Chris Paul is the X factor for Phoenix.
Yes, he is. I watched game 1 and 2 live when it happened. And you saw, especially game 2, Chris Paul was a difference maker, especially in that fourth quarter. I believe you and I were sitting on Zoom watching this together.
We did, yes.
And he was a big difference maker in that last half of the game. He was making his shots, getting open looks. He was looking really, really good. Like you said, games 3 and 4, he's had a very low production value. In my opinion, Paul's got to step up. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, he's trying, he's doing what he can. But the man, I know he's, not the youngest player on the team, but he's still got to be the leader.
No.
Come on, you still got to be the leader of the team, despite Devin Booker being a high scorer. Once again, not everybody can do it themselves. And I know that Ayton's giving it his all. I know that all the other players are trying. Like you said, when it comes to Chris Paul's got to be more productive. He's got to he's got to make his shots. He's got to really just step up, and that's really all there is to it. Devin Booker's been playing insanely great. He's been doing well. He's been getting his shots, he's been making his points. He's been doing great. But Chris Paul, leader of the team, he's got to step up. He's got to showcase what he is and why he's in the playoffs once again, and why it's his time. And why it's not Milwaukee's time, why it's not Denver's time or any other team's time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. To me, Chris Paul has got to show up these next couple of games to seal the deal, or otherwise this is going to be a long series.
Yes, and we're obviously guaranteed at least a game 6. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. And I want to ask you this before we get to your thoughts, Ezra, on this Miami. Oh, real quick, we'll go to the Miami-Philadelphia series and I'll ask you guys this question. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on this Miami-Philadelphia series? Because me and Joey were talking about this, and just Philadelphia has put a lot of pressure on the Heat's defense in these first couple of these last 2 games back at Philadelphia. And to me, the biggest thing with this series in these last 2 games, in game 3, in that ugly game, Philadelphia winning 99-79, Miami only shot 7 of 30 from the 3-point line. In game 4, Philadelphia winning 116-108, Miami only shot 7 of 35. And that, to me, is the biggest contributing factor to why Miami has lost the last couple of games. Because Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry have not gotten it going from the 3-point line in these last couple of games. And they got to show up better on their home floor in game 5. What are your thoughts on the last couple of games, especially in this Philadelphia-Miami series? And what has Philadelphia done to be successful at home compared to being on the road in Miami?
It's like you said, being at home. For me, if I was a player and I was in my hometown, I would have that adrenaline pumping through me. I would be playing the best. For me, it depends on what you look at. It depends on the stats, how they were at home versus how they were away, especially in their whole entire regular season run.
Right.
The one thing you said that was very telling was the overall basket percentage, 7 of 35. That is absolutely abysmal. Okay.
Very abysmal.
One second. That's absolutely abysmal. And for me, it's just that this shooting is beyond inconsistent. And like you said, you got guys like Tyler Hero, you got Jimmy G Buckets. The G of buckets is just standing for gets buckets because he sure as fuck ain't getting any.
Exactly.
Watch Chicago Bulls stuff, Stacey King and his catchphrases. But anyways, those guys are not producing. None of the other players are producing. It's like, well, here's the thing. They're putting up way too many shots. They need to be more selective. This is my opinion. They need to be more selective with their shots instead of 7 to 35 is terrible. They need to make them in general, but they also need to be selective with. They can't just be pouring up 35 shots and expecting to only make 7. They got to be smarter. They got to play better, whether it's in the paint or whether it's out in the lines. They got to play better ball overall. To me, Jimmy Butler, as great of a player as he is, and he is great, he's just never been that. Like, he's had great performances in Chicago from a guy who's watched Jimmy Butler on those Derrick Rose teams.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, he's always had seems like a measure of inconsistency. And Tyler Hero, despite being such a touted player and a touted, young kid, to me, I think I'm not going to say he's overrated or anything. I'm going to say he's not the player. They aren't who we thought they were. Let's just put it that
Exactly.
And to me, he's just not who we thought we were as far as this player is, especially in these playoffs. It seems like he's crumbling under the pressure. And Jimmy is too. I know Jimmy's probably been. I think he's been in a couple of playoffs, 1 or 2 with Chicago, and then a couple here with Miami. But still, you're a veteran. You should know this. You should, and not only that, when you being a veteran, you should be able to lead this team. It seems like Miami is all over the place ever since departure of the main core that was there left, and they've been playing great ball, but it seems like they're really inconsistent this whole playoff run, especially this series. Going, like you said, 7 for 35 shooting. They need to make baskets. They need to get open. They need to be better with the shot selection. Those are the things that I think need to really to help Miami even remotely think about getting back into this series.
Absolutely. Now, I want to ask you guys this: with these teams that are left in these playoffs, who do you guys think? Obviously, there's a couple of them here that are really good. But who do you? I'll start with you, Joey, first. Who do you think in the West has out of these last 4 teams in the West? Who do you guys think as far as has the best chance at making it to the NBA Finals? Joey, who do you think?
Oh, that is an absolute no-brainer. The Golden State Warriors, because they've proven that they can match with some of the top teams in the West. And they prove that they can stay on top no matter what the circumstances are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, if the Warriors are down a player, no problem. Because next man up, and they'll go out and ball too. So the Warriors are definitely the best team, and not just the West, but the entire NBA. So the Warriors, hands down.
Agree.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely with Golden State definitely is a shoe-in for the playoffs because of how good they are. And like Joey said, they can, no matter what pieces fall, they can always have another piece to step it right into place because they're so good. Let's say Steph Curry goes out, Jordan Poole can take that first row spot. If Klay Thompson goes down, they have other players that they can just shoot right in and they can make the same production value as those guys. If not as a team, do it better. Who knows? But for me, Golden State's a shoe-in the West. As far as the East goes, that's a tough call.
The East is really tough for me.
Yeah, the East is a tough call.
I think I'm going to go, and this is going to shock, I think I'm going to go with Boston.
You know what? Even though I'm a Boston fan, I agree.
I'm not a Boston. I'm not going to go. I mean, I would never bet against Giannis. But like I said, it takes more than one man to win it all. And if Giannis is having to do those 40-point games every night, it's eventually going to wear on him. So I think that Boston is going to be the one that I think is going to end up shocking everybody.
See,
but
Golden
State's still going to win the whole damn thing, no doubt.
Yeah, but I agree with both you guys. Boston is legitimately the best bet to win the Eastern Conference because, I mean, Boston has more than one guy who is playing the best ball that they can right now. Brown, Tatum, all those Al Horford, who had himself a great game. I mean, Boston has that legitimate threat around them, and I wouldn't want to bet against Giannis either, especially since they won the NBA championship last year. But until the Bucks get Chris Middleton back, which is probably not going to be for the rest of this series.
Nope.
Well, I mean, the Bucks, I can't really see them as a legit threat. And like I mentioned earlier, Miami and Philadelphia, it's been a very interesting series between the two teams. But I mean, like I mentioned earlier, whoever comes out of Boston and Milwaukee is winning the Eastern Conference, hands down.
And the guys from the Boston Radio Network last night said, whoever wins this series is going to the finals. And I absolutely agree because Philadelphia, Miami, even though they're top team, the stats say, but as far as consistency, they're not. Boston and Milwaukee are the better teams.
Well, do you know one thing I would love to see, even though I know it's not going to happen?
What's that?
The one thing I would love to see happen, just because we talked about it in our high school days, if Boston and Miami meet in game one, in Miami, put Chris Bosh on the Miami Heat and put Rajon Rondo on the Celtics and have Rondo dunk on him.
Oh, that poster was spectacular.
Oh, man.
And speaking of also fabulous, Horford's poster on Antetokounmpo was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, got up in his grill and said, okay, let's go. And
if Stacey King were calling that game, he'd have the teleprompter with Al Horford's signature at the bottom of the picture. As he does with every time there's a poster in Chicago, always ends up putting the signature of the player right underneath.
Oh, but Steven, how many times did you, me, and Kevin talk about Rondo posterizing Chris Bosh in our high school days?
A lot.
A
freaking lot.
My all-time favorite poster thing will always be Taj Gibson posterizing Dwayne Wade.
Yes!
In the Eastern Conference playoffs. Love.
Oh, that was fun. I forgot about that dunk, dude. That was a phenomenal dunk.
You saw Dwayne Wade's soul leave his body.
He was like, oh, damn it.
Stacey King said it. D-Wade, did you not get the memo?
I forgot about that poster. My Lord, that was awesome.
And then what about the I think it was the bounce back dunk too. He also had a few moments later, bounced off the rim and then he grabbed it and put it back. Put it back for another heavy dunk. That was fucking Taj Gibson was a monster that game.
Whew.
But anyways, yeah, this is those picks are no-brainers. But overall, I'll say this much. These playoffs have been the most exciting, unpredictable playoffs I've seen in a while.
Yes.
Yeah, especially as a lot of these matchups are tied up 2-2. There's only, I think, one that's 3-1, and that's Golden State.
Yep.
And so with that being said, those other ones can go. We know Golden State's probably going to walk right through into the playoffs, but those other ones could go either way.
I just looked.
Oh, yeah.
Miami and Philadelphia is at halftime, and the Heat are up 56-44.
Still within reach, though. Still within reach.
Yep.
Still within reach.
Anybody's ball game. And obviously Phoenix and Dallas is tonight in Phoenix, Arizona for game 5. And it's going to be really interesting because obviously next week we're going to be back on here talking about the rest of the NBA playoffs from the wild week that happens with the rest of these series. And will some new series begin? We shall see at the end of the week. And I want to get to you guys on some news in the NFL that dropped today. Tom Brady. Yes, Tom Brady is back in the news. When Randy watches this, sorry, bro. Anyways, Tom Brady has signed a multi-year deal with Fox to be the lead NFL color analyst. Oh, my goodness. When he is done with his playing career, since Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are going to ESPN for Monday Night Football. Man, this is out. You know what? I was checking out a video earlier today from ESPN, and they were spot on. You know what? Brady said, I'm tired of dealing with these damn kids. And my wife, Giselle, I love you, but and I love you kids, but I still have to have football for the rest of my life, even afterwards not playing, because Brady obviously got tired of sitting on his ass at home. And what do you guys think? I mean, Brady being the lead analyst, covering, the games on Fox. I mean, Ezra, I'll start with you first. I mean, this is pretty huge because this has never happened to my knowledge in sports, in any walk of sports, football, hockey, basketball, baseball, etc. An athlete who is still active announces what he or she is going to do after they hang up the cleats, the shoes, etc.
Well, for me, it's pretty obvious. We've seen this with Tony Romo. We've seen this with other former players who've gone into sports media. It's or they start a podcast or whatever. It's part of it. This is nothing new. But for Tom, it is new for Tom Brady to have a lead spot like this. But then again, you have a guy who's got a football IQ like he does, a guy who's a hell of a player like he does, a guy who knows how to not only dissect offenses with especially his own offense, but he knows what the defense is going to look like. This man knows all facets of the game. Yes, he's mainly strictly a quarterback, but that doesn't mean one offensive player doesn't know defense either. Especially your guy like a Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't matter. You're a guy who studies all facets of the game and knows it. And to me, I think Tom will do great as an analyst. He's a person. He's not a dry personality. He's got a little bit of a personality. We've seen him in commercials. We've seen him on TV do funny things. I mean, is he Peyton Manning level comedy?
No.
To me, Peyton Manning would be perfect with his brother Eli because it would be fucking hilarious. But
Exactly.
but you know what? I think Tom's going to do an awesome job. He knows what he's doing. For him,
the game.
Plus, you got to think. All he's got to do is every Sunday go into a booth, walk in, do his job, leave, go home. He doesn't have to spend 3 or 4 days at a training center and having to go through plays and schemes and all this different sorts of stuff, and then go through practice and then have to get ready for a game. It's just, all right, okay, I got to read my notes. Okay, this team, blah, 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 blah. All right, start the show. Boom, done, game, go home.
Yep.
So it's a lighter schedule and a lighter life for him, especially later in his career.
Mm-hmm.
But although I know there's people, Randy, who dislike Tom Brady a lot. I mean, he was putting cursing emojis in there when I sent him the news, so that worked out well. But overall, congratulations.
Ezra was thinking when he sent that, this is it. This will get him pissed off.
Yeah, that's why I send you Rickroll videos.
Yeah, exactly. Just to piss me off, and it works, asshole.
Yeah, just be prepared for one tonight, by the way. I'm going to let you know ahead of time on this one.
All right. Thank you for the warning.
Yeah, no problem. Fair Van Halen, 1970.
Yeah, exactly. Joey, what are your thoughts, Joey, on Tom Brady going into the booth after he actually retires finally?
First off, I want to say you two guys are insane.
Insane, got no brains.
Those are you, Steven. Talk for yourself.
Oh man. But yeah, Ezra pretty much got the nail on the head when he said that Tom Brady knows pretty much every single aspect of the NFL football game: offense, defense, special teams, coaching, whatever. So yeah, I think Tom Brady's gonna make a great analyst, but there's one thing there's one thing I don't want to see Tom Brady do, and that is take notes on how to become an analyst from Chris Collinsworth. Now, here's a guy.
And I'm wondering, will he be like Romo? Because the one thing Romo always did that drove me nuts is, especially in the first, couple years of his calling, in games with Jim Nantz on CBS, he would literally call the play before it even happens. Like, oh, they're running a fake play to this. I'm like, Romo, why? Let the play breathe a little bit. I get it. He knows the game, but that's just me.
Yep, that's just me.
But I want to get you guys' thoughts on something that happened this weekend, and Ezra knows where I'm going with this, because the UFC had a pay-per-view this past Saturday, UFC 274, live from Phoenix, actually. And overall, top to bottom, I thought it was a pretty solid card. But the biggest disappointment of that card was that women's strongweight title fight. that was the most lackluster, boring fight I have ever came across in my life. I mean, the audience, the commentary team destroyed that fight because by the third round, the crowd was already dead. It sounded like you were at a Monday Night Raw. That's how restless that crowd was during that fight. It was bad. They should have piped in boo or cheer, during that shitty ass fight. It was that bad. I mean, Ezra, Ezra, since you're the MMA guy on this show, so what were your thoughts on this fight? Because to me, Rose did not come out like a true champion in this fight because she in her press conference, she was just talking out of her ass because she was basically saying, "Oh, I took her down. I was hitting her good." No, she was not.
Not even close.
Not even close.
To me, that fight was one of the most boring women's fights I've ever seen in the UFC. And it's boring in a sense that there was no real action. Like, I respect grappling matches. I respect those types of fights. I love that type of stuff. I mean, I'm a fan, whether it's a fan of, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu battles or wrestling battles or even like the pure wrestling stuff we see in like Ring of Honor and AEW with Jonathan Gresham and Zack Sabre Jr. That type of stuff I love. But to me, there was no real action to this fight. There was no reason for it. I literally got up because I was watching the fight the next morning because I had to work. I got up that morning halfway through the fight to grab me something to munch on and a drink and missed the second round because I was busy talking to my mom.
Right.
I didn't care. I didn't really care that much for that fight. To me, the highlight of the night, despite everything that went down, was Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje. That fight, that fight was really fucking good. Oliveira,
very good fight.
And I know we're gonna get to this, and I'm gonna go ahead and transition to it. We might as well, and that is the whole situation involving Charles Oliveira being overweight. And this is not, and mind you, I know there's a lot of people who are bent out of shape about it. My opinion is this: this is his fifth time being overweight. Number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, you are expected as a champion in a championship fight, or whether you're a challenger, that the rules of the weight limits in your respective championship fights.
Right.
Anybody who is fighting for a championship must be either on weight or below weight to make the fight. Charles Oliveira was a half pound above. People saying, "Oh, it's a half pound, it's a half pound." It doesn't matter. The UFC has code and conducts that state that all fighters, especially fighters who are champions, must make their weight. That's why it's called championship weight. That's why it's you as a champion, you have a certain responsibility to make. And I'm not trying to be hard on Oliveira. This sucks. Yes, he's had problems in the past. I don't know what it could be. It could be from cutting. It could be from maybe a nutritional issue. It could be a health issue. Who knows? But unlike Chris Hero. Chris Hero was known as a wrestler. Of course, we know him as Cassius Ohno as well in WWE. He was known for his weight fluctuating all the time. He would be super, not jacked, but super healthy. The next thing you know, he would be almost 60 pounds overweight. That's because he had a thyroid issue that wouldn't allow him to control his weight normally. Charles Oliveira, for some reason, can't shed that half pound, 1 pound, or whatever to get himself to that championship fight. And that's, whether it's his fault or not, he's still got to make weight. And maybe the UFC was a little harsh on stripping him of the title. Maybe they could have just docked him the 40% or 50% fight purse he was supposed to get. Maybe that, but still, as a champion, you have a responsibility to uphold. And unfortunately, he did not do that.
I mean,
he put on a great performance. Don't get me wrong. He choked him out in the first round and walked away. But still, he's titleless now.
Yeah. And obviously he can get the championship back because he is technically the number one ranked lightweight in the division. But he's to me, he's still the best lightweight right now. But again, I absolutely agree with you, on this because you, as a champion, you have to be responsible because when you are the champion in the UFC, you have a whole lot of things to worry about. You have to worry about, staying in tip-top shape, being a fighting champion, being a good representative of the media. That's another thing, and all that stuff. And I mean, clearly Gaethje could have won the title if he would have beat Oliveira, but that didn't happen because Gaethje had him in the first round a little bit because he caught him a couple of times with some good punches and stuff like that. And Charles was reeling a little bit, but like a true battle-tested warrior that he is, he came back and choked him out. Rear naked choke. Gaethje tapped. That was it. And the fight that had me in stitches and a lot of people in stitches was Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson. Holy shit. That was an incredible 2-round fight because Ferguson came out smoking in that first round. He had Chandler on his heels a couple of times, and Chandler was busted on that eye. And Rogan was wondering, how is that going to affect Chandler in the rest of that fight? Because let's be honest, fellas, if Tony Ferguson would have went to us, if that fight would have went all 3 rounds, Ferguson probably would have won that fight based off the first round because the way Ferguson was aggressive, attacking Michael and coming after him. But in that second round, just when you were ready to get ready, round 2 starting, bam, like an RKO, bang, diamond cutter, whatever analogy you want to use. One of the most beautiful, timed front head knockouts. Picture perfect. On the button. Down goes Ferguson, out cold for at least a minute or 2. I mean, Rogan and who's the other guy? John
Anik.
Yeah, thank you. They reacted, but shockingly, Daniel Cormier did not react. DC was telling Rogan, "Hey, I turned around, and when I turned around, next thing I know, Ferguson's knocked out." And because John and Joe reacted to the kick, because they were watching the broadcast, and just the reaction by them was it was like, whoa, it was shocked. The crowd popped. It was incredible. And just that incredible kick. I mean, Ezra, I want to get you and Joey, I want to get you guys' thoughts on this fight. I mean, Ezra, that front head kick was beautifully timed. And that was Chandler said it in the post-fight with Rogan interview. He said, I saw that I had an opening and I went for it. So, do you think that Michael's front head kick was a desperation kick, try to get a home run shot, and obviously it capitalized? What were your thoughts on Chandler's thoughts in going into that second round, the way he was dominated in that first round?
To me, it shows the heart of a champion. Mm-hmm. To me, Michael Chandler was a former champion in Bellator. Yep. I've watched Michael Chandler's career since then, when he was a champion of Bellator, just beating guys left and right. To me, when it comes to the knockout itself, I don't think it was a desperation shot. I think it was just maybe he saw his hands drop for a second, or maybe he was reset. Maybe he saw Tony Ferguson resetting, but he just threw that kick in the hole. Maybe it would have even slightly connected to maybe give him a little bit of an opening to say, hey, I can get you. But then it just landed flush perfect and just knocked him clean out. Michael Chandler is that good of a fighter. And so is Tony El Kukui. Ferguson is the fucking man. I've watched the guy, and he's one of my favorites. To me, Chandler proved once again why he is a champion and why he's got the heart of a champion. Because yes, he got destroyed that first round. That first round was all Tony Ferguson. Then, like you said, that second round, it started. He threw that head kick, and it was over. That was it. Good night, Irene. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the veal. It was a great knockout, one of the best knockouts of the year so far. And Tony was gracious in defeat. In an interview, he said he thought the world of Chandler and said this was an awesome fight. Thank you for it, and hopefully we can do this again relatively soon. And I'll be back. And so I'm excited. I would love to see another run back at Tony and Chandler to see for like a round 2 or round 3. I would love to see them guys go at it again.
Yep. Joey, what are your thoughts?
To be honest, I never really watched much of UFC because I have really no way to watch it. But as far as what I read, I do agree that women's fight was pretty boring, and probably the most boring women's fight I've ever seen. But I never really watched much of this UFC pay-per-view, and I tried to at least watch a little bit, even if it's highlights on the ESPN app. But all in all, it seemed like it was a pretty good a pretty good pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I think.
And also Chandler during his post-fight interview also challenged McGregor to come out at his best. And I don't know about that, man, because McGregor's lost his last couple of fights, and I don't know if I would do that. And I think Chandler would win that fight, pretty easily. And Ezra, what do you think?
You can never count a fighter out. You can't count
Right.
McGregor out by any stretch of the imagination. He's still a great fighter. Yes, he's lost a couple of his last fights, but that doesn't mean that McGregor won't come in with the time off, ready, in training, in shape to come in there and go to war. That doesn't mean that won't happen. And you never know. McGregor may shock the world and knock out Chandler or put him to sleep. Who knows? It's possible. I mean, Michael Chandler's been a more active fighter because McGregor's been dealing with his legal troubles. He's had a baby recently. He's been doing a lot of different stuff. So with that being said, I feel like this could go either way. I would lean towards Michael Chandler just because he's had more ring time over the past year or so, where Conor's been kind of in and out because of injury and like I said, his legal troubles, the whole situation with him, and I believe it was it Max Holloway or somebody?
Yes, something like that. Yes.
Yeah. So he had that going on, and then, like I said, he had a kid, and so I would go with Michael Chandler just based on the fact he's had more fighting time in the past year or so than Conor would if that fight were to take place. That's just a pipe dream right now. I know that Dana hasn't signed anything yet for anything of that sort. We'll just see what's next for both Conor and Michael.
Right. So, we shall see because, man, the UFC is just heating up, with these pay-per-views, man, just killing it.
Yeah.
So, before we continue, I want to once again plug our social media platforms: Twitter on Owen_Sports Show, Facebook.com/Nations Sports Show. Also, follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner. Everywhere else: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. It is at the Nation's Corner. And I tell you what, man, it's been crazy with with these playoffs, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of these games, in the playoffs, and what happens, because man, it's heating up, really good. Man. I mean, my God. I mean, what a show it's been. I mean, I was on, then Joey came on, and then you came on. Man, I'm glad you made it, man. It's been a wild day. I hope Kevin's feeling better.
Yeah.
And Randy's unfortunately was at a funeral. One of his friends passed away a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Let's see. And now Miami is still up 61-46 in the third quarter.
Okay.
Miami's got to go up 3-2.
Yep, they're fixing to go up 3-2. It's just a matter of time. So as far as tomorrow goes with these games, what do you, I'll go to you first, Joey, as far as, tonight, because Phoenix and Dallas is tonight. Who do you have winning this game? Because it's really a toss-up situation, because I think Phoenix can bounce back, and I think they will. What do you think?
I think Phoenix is going to bounce back too. One thing that I mentioned about Phoenix is that they need to get their intensity level back to where they need to be, because if they don't, they're going to find themselves on the wrong end of the spectrum.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, I can see Phoenix rebounded tonight and taking a 3-2 lead, but I'm telling you right now, if Dallas finds a way to pull this one out, then if I were Phoenix, I'd be pressing that panic button.
Absolutely. Ezra?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Joey. To me, this is Phoenix's round to lose, in my opinion. Phoenix has been playing so pretty well to the most part. Like I said, outside of Chris Paul having a few down games, they've been playing really relatively well. They need to seal this away, and they need to do it quick. And they need to do it. They foot on the throat. Do not let them go. That's what they need to do. I mean, there is an off chance that there's enough chance that fortunes can be switched, but we'll see. I think it's just I think overall I think it's Phoenix's playoff round to lose if Chris Paul doesn't get his act together, and if the other team decides to go ahead and just play better better overall defense and better shooting than Phoenix does. So.
Absolutely. Go to tomorrow's games, Milwaukee, Boston, game 5. I honestly think Boston is going to take this game because the momentum is clearly on their side after their shocking game 4 victory on Monday. Ezra, I'll start with you. Who do you got winning game 5?
I'm going to go with Boston. Boston is just, I think it's a different animal this time around. Milwaukee, yes, they're playing good. They're playing good ball. But to me, Boston has had more momentum on their side. And I think overall, I think they're shooting better. I think they're playing a little bit better overall defense-wise. And while Giannis is putting up 30 points, none of the other players are really performing the way they should.
Nope.
And to me, if they can shut down those other people and keep Giannis and also keep Giannis on a lower scoring percentage and a lower overall total than what he's had, then I think this is Boston's not only game to win, but series to win.
I absolutely agree. Joey?
Boston, hands down. I mean, they're going back to the TD Garden. The fans are going to be ramping up to see their hometown Celtics pull off another W. So Boston all the way.
And we don't have to go into this one because we all universally agree. I know Kevin does. I know Randy does. We all agree that Golden State will take this series in 5. No questions asked.
Yeah, we don't even have to go there.
No, not even close. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this bad boy up?
I think I'm good on my end.
Ezra?
Yeah, I'm pretty much good. Just, of course, great show that I was part of it with you guys. And also I want to plug real quick. Don't forget, I know most of us are heading to Baltimore this weekend. Some are headed to Texas. Please check out Mission Pro Don't Stop Me Now this weekend. May 14th on TitleMatchNetwork.com. Sign up on TitleMatchNetwork.com. It's only $9.99 a month. You can catch Bishop Pro and all the other promotions that are a part of Title Match Network. Go to that right now and watch some great women's wrestling from all around the U.S. Thunder Rosa will be there. All your favorites, Rosa Negra, Holodead. You got so many great talents. Jasmine Allure, the Renegade Twins, and so many more. MissionProWrestling.net to get tickets if you're going to be in the area, and TitleMatchNetwork.com to sign up to watch the pay-per-view live on May 14th. Steven, close it out.
Oh, man, just phenomenal show with you guys. I mean, and I'm glad, like I said, Ezra, I'm glad you were able to come on, come on the show tonight and, finish this bad boy out with us, and just a great show with you guys. And Kevin will not be here with us next week as well because he's got to go to an event with his daughter. And, but we got this bad boy covered next week. And as you alluded to, Ezra, we will be in Baltimore this weekend for Celeb Fest 4. Also, we're going to go to Jimmy's and hang out. Man, it's going to be an awesome weekend.
Absolutely.
I mean, finally getting to meet you in person and, getting to hang out with Christina again, Ashley, Deb, Tony, man, it's going to be awesome time this weekend.
Yes, it is.
Again, real quick, folks, you can follow us on Twitter at @ON_Sports Show, Facebook.com/Nations Sports Show. And also follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner. Everywhere else, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, it is at The Nation's Corner. And I know some of us will be in Baltimore, some of us will be in Texas, and it's going to be an awesome weekend. And looking forward to spending a great time with you guys this weekend. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I want to get to you guys' final thoughts. Joey?
Another great show with you guys. Hate that we were 2 people short. Randy, if you're watching this, my condolences to your friend's family and, of course, to yourself also for the passing of your friend a few weeks ago. Kevin, my man, hope you're feeling better. Can't wait to see you, not next week, but the week after. But another great show with you guys. And guys smell that? I'm smelling closer to NFL football rolling around because this upcoming Thursday night at 8 o'clock p.m. is when the 2022 NFL schedule will be released. So
I cannot wait for that.
Baby. Let's go, baby. Bring it on.
Absolutely. I cannot wait for that. Ezra, your final thoughts?
I was glad I was able to get on for the last half of the show with you all. It was fun. As usual, of course, great show. Glad we were able to get into NBA Finals talk, a little bit of UFC talk. It was a great show, man, and can't wait to be back in a hosting chair next week with you all. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a fun time in Baltimore. A lot of people are going to have a fun time in Texas. Front row, of course, is dealing with some stuff right now outside of the country. Feel better. Kevin, feel better. And Randy, condolences to your friend's family and your family and you as well for the loss of your friend. Our prayers and everything are with you and his family. And just overall the best. And we will see Randy next week and Kevin in 2 weeks. All right, Steven, let's go.
And real quick before we wrap up this bad boy, I've been in contact with Sirius XM host Lance Meadow to possibly coming back on the show. And Lance, as always, we know Lance is a very busy man. And who knows, we might have a special guest joining us next Tuesday. We may not. Well, we'll see. But whenever we get Lance back on, whenever we do, we're going to talk about all things NFL, the NBA playoffs, and all of that fun jazz. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it's been another great edition of our Nation Sports Show. So with that being said, for Ezra, and I'm sorry, ladies, he's not Justin Timberlake. He is Joey Thornton. I am Stephen Wyand. We are signing off, and what another great edition of our Nation Sports Show. And we will be back next Tuesday, same time, same channel. You know it. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? Yes, enjoy them. Anyways, everybody, take care. Have a great weekend. Peace.
Turn it up.